Hello, welcome back to my garden. As hopefully you could see, the zinnias here in the no-cut flower garden are looking very tired, ratty, and done. And many of them are. I'm actually cutting out some of this one here. I don't even know what type this is, but it's done. There's no new buds. There's almost no new growth. So I'm starting to cut it out. And this is the way it'll continue now for the next probably 2 to 3 weeks at least. We are in early October. Today is specifically the 6th. The next few days we're supposed to get 80-degree temperatures, and then after that we're going to drop down to low 70s. So fall will have arrived. But what I'm trying to do is keep as many of the zinnias going for as long as possible. They may look ratty and tired, but as you can see, there are still some flowers going. This is not so much for me, this is more for the pollinators, where for me, I would come in one fell day and just clean all this out and start preparing the ground for winter. But there's still a lot of pollinators around. I'm in growing zone 8B, for those of you not in the know. There's a bunch of new subscribers, and thank you to all the new subscribers. Many of you seem to have jumped on board recently with my greenhouse video. Some of you have come from watching one of my concrete videos, I think, maybe a few other things. But either way, welcome to the channel. Yeah, I'm just trying to tidy up here a bit, take out some of the plants that are already gone over. And then, as I said, over the next few weeks, the rest of these will be coming out because they're just one by one, slowly but surely, finally giving it up, finally going over, which is kind of sad. And it marks sort of the end of the season. Summer's over, we're into fall. Even though 80 degrees doesn't feel like fall here in Eastern North Carolina, but it's not the end of everything here. As I showed in previous videos, I got fall crops in the ground. I've got carrots. I love carrots, so I've got at least one bed of them already planted, and I'll probably be putting in this week a couple more beds of carrots. I have some lettuces, spinach, they're going, and then I started growing calendulas. They are a cool season flower here in Eastern North Carolina. I have a whole bed full of them, and then if they survive until the spring, I'm thinking maybe digging some of them up from my raised bed where I currently have them and planting them out throughout the garden. I don't know, we'll see. Spring is a long ways off. In the meantime, one of the beds that I still have going here in the vegetable garden with summer crops, as it were, is a pepper plant. This is a jalapeno pepper plant, and it has put on a ton of fruit right now. I don't know if all of this is going to ripen before the end of the season. Likely our first freeze is going to be November 15th-ish. But either way, I think what I'm going to do at the end of the season is what I've done in previous seasons, is dig up the plant, put it into a pot, and then put it into the greenhouse for the winter to overwinter it there. If you didn't know, pepper plants are perennial. You can dig it up, chop it back. I think I did a video on this a couple of years ago or last year, not entirely sure, but basically you're going to take everything off of the pepper plant, leaves, stems, and all, and only leave about a foot of the main trunk. And you'll keep that into a pot in a sheltered space. You can put it into a garage, anywhere it's frost-free or where the soil itself won't freeze, and it'll chill out there for the winter, and then you'll have a jump start come the next spring, because now you're not going to have to grow from a seedling all the way up. Basically, you already have a plant, and as it gets hotter, then it'll just grow that much faster. Right here in front of me, I have 2 cherry tomato plants. These are propagated from cuttings, and in the propagating from cuttings, I misplaced the label. So one of them is possibly a Chadwick cherry tomato, one of them is a spoon cherry tomato, or they're both spoons. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, they're growing. They're putting on a lot of new growth, and one of them is even starting to put on fruit. Again, I don't know if we're going to have the temperatures and or the sunshine and the daylight for these to give me tomatoes. It's just a fun little experiment. You guys run little experiments like this? Do you just not even bother? Do you just move on, or do you keep trying to grow things well beyond when you possibly should be growing them? Let me know below in those comments. Right here in this pot, I have daffodils. We're not going to be planting daffodils today, but I'm going to harvest the bulbs out of here probably next week when it's cooler, and then I'll plant them into the one bulb spot that I have by the front gate. But these are the only bulbs I'll be planting this year. I've been saving up all my pennies and dimes for the potting shed. I put a post recently up on the community page, or just posts page. It's on the YouTube home channel page. If you go over to, I believe it's just posts now, I post up questions, polls, quizzes, all sorts of fun things over there. But if you go over there, check it out. I just recently did a poll asking what bulbs you're planting, and I think out of the 5 respondents or 7 respondents, most of you said daffodils. I found that interesting because I'm more of a tulip person than a daffodil person, so I would be planting more tulips than daffodils. But down here in Eastern North Carolina, I can do tulips, but they have to go through like 6-week pre-freeze, and it's a whole thing. And then they're only like annuals versus daffodils, which I can put in the ground. They will naturalize, and they'll just keep coming up year after year after year. Maybe that's why you grow daffodils, because they naturalize and you don't have to worry about digging them up or planting them every single year. Guys, again, let me know in those comments below. One of the things we are going to do today, because talking about how everything is going over and it's the end of the season, it's a little depressing. I'm going to be planting out some bugleweed. Now, some of you may have seen my video about a month or so ago, where I dug up a bunch of bugleweed, and it's a great ground cover. It's very durable. It's not a thug. It will literally grow around plants, and bigger, stronger, sturdier plants like elephant ears or lilies, they'll just push right up through it. So we're going to plant some of this out today just because I can. I have a bunch more in pots on the bench, and I'm on the fence about whether I should plant out all of my bugleweed now in the fall. This is probably not the best time to be planting it, but again, I'm in growing zone 8B, and if we get a frost, it's going to be for like an hour, and then it'll get back up to 60, 70 degrees, and it'll do that for a couple of months, and then the ground doesn't freeze here. So if I feel like if I plant this now, I'm thinking I'm going to take the risk. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take the risk, but if we plant this now today, theoretically, it should get a pretty good rooting in, and then hopefully it'll survive the winter. Again, it's supposed to be a much warmer winter. So then hopefully it'll survive till spring, and then it'll have that leg up, as it were, versus something that I keep in the greenhouse over the winter and then plant out next spring. This is my thinking. Oh, I'm going to have to install this edging soon. Now, where should I put this bugleweed? I'm thinking maybe down here. That iris looks lovely. So down in this corner here of the flower garden, we get a lot of sun. And I discovered when I was over at Longwood Gardens that bugleweed can and does grow quite well in full sun. I have it growing in partial shade over in the driveway bed. So I took a bunch of the cuttings from the driveway bed earlier, I think it was about a month or so ago. You guys can go back and find that video, or if I'm good enough, I'll post up a link somewhere on the top of the screen here. So I decided to then propagate some out here. Bugleweed's a good ground cover. I like the color of the plant. It's, purplish greenish leaves. They have a couple of different varieties. This is Burgundy Glow, I believe. Either way, I'm thinking putting it right here in this corner, because I'd like maybe something growing around the peonies. So I have a sort of a gap right in here, but I'm thinking if I plant it here and it spreads amongst the various peonies and the salvia and whatnot that I have growing in here, it would fill in the blank spaces. It would help suppress the weeds. The other nice thing about a ground cover is it'll help keep the ground itself cooler, which is important down here in growing zone 8B, where it gets quite hot during August. You think June's hot, July gets hotter, then August you just sort of spontaneously combust. But either way, so I think that's the play. In this corner, I think I'm going to put the bugleweed. If I ever change my mind, it's relatively simple to remove. It doesn't have super deep roots, so I think this is going to be the place to plant it. So let me quit talking. I think we're going to pop the first one right here. This soil is really nice. I brought a bunch of compost with me, but I don't think I'm going to need it. There we go. Oh, it's got beautiful roots. Push some of that soil back in there. I should probably have my gloves on. I have seen fire ants in the area. So get that one planted there. I like that. I'm going to plant one right here, I think. Or maybe behind it. Or maybe here. Choices, choices. Again, it's going to be a spreading plant. We're going to go right here, right up front. Again, I can always move it if need be. Another good set of roots. So both these plants put on just in a month really good roots here. Get this cover back up. There we go, so we got 2 right there. So then the only thing left to do is give them a water. We're gonna get rain allegedly on Wednesday, Thursday this week. This will help settle the plants in. It'll help the plants deal with the 2 days that we're gonna have of like 80-degree weather. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but at least here for me in growing zone 8B, the bugleweed is evergreen. It doesn't die back to the ground during the wintertime. The leaves will stay on top. They'll look crispy, they'll look crunchy. They won't look great because it'll, you know, the colds and the frosts, but they'll be there. And then in the springtime, it just keeps on going. It's really a low maintenance plant for me, again, at least in the partial shade in the driveway bed where I've grown it before. Here in the full sun where I've never grown it before, I don't know. You know what? We're gonna find out, and we'll find out together. I do still have some water in the watering can, so I want to water just a couple more things. 2 of the plants I transplanted recently was a Japanese anemone, and that one's doing quite well. I don't know how much water this needs, but we're not supposed to get rain for a few days, and again, we're getting up to those 80-degree temperatures. So the Japanese anemone will get a little bit of water, and then the other one is an astilbe, and this one is also doing quite well. But being new plants and the temperature is getting up there over the next few days, I just want to ensure that they just have enough of a drink to keep on going. I got a foxglove growing right here. It's pretty neat. I'm sure if the bees have found it, they've been enjoying it. It is pretty. And hopefully next year, there'll be a whole lot more foxgloves in this area. So those are planted. There's probably a few more things I'm going to plant before November. I've been debating about whether to stick this wax myrtle into the ground. I think I might do that this week right before we get those rains. This way the plant, it is putting on new growth. It's been sitting in this pot for a while, but it'll have time to start really rooting in again before the frosts and freezes. And wax myrtles, again, down here in eastern North Carolina, they stay evergreen throughout the winter. If I can get this in the ground now, I think it'll definitely have time. And the more time the plant has to put its roots in the ground, the better. I think this time of year, though, is just about winding down the garden, cleaning up what you can. As I mentioned with the zinnias, I'm just going to leave them as long as I can. And then, of course, there's the garden cleanup, which will probably really start in earnest in November, carry on through to December. And in between all of that, I'm going to try to get my potting shed built. So hopefully that won't take more than a couple of weeks, the structure itself. After I build the structure and I get that all done, then the next phase will be fitting out. So setting up the inside will probably be the most interesting to most of you guys. I know it would be the most interesting to me just to see how I set everything up. And I've been putting a lot of thought into where are my tools going to go? How am I going to store my tools? Where are the fertilizers going to go? Where's the vermiculite, the perlite? Where are the pots going to go? Where am I going to put the potting soil? All these things I've been thinking about, coming up with ideas, and if all goes well, if the potting shed gets built and everything gets completed, since this is going to be the front wall right here, next spring, or before next spring, we're going to dig up my climbing rose from the rose garden, and we're going to plant it right here. And the plan is to grow it up all next year, right up along the front of the potting shed. That should be pretty exciting. So it'll be build the structure first, then fit it out, get everything put in there, prep it for January when I start my seeds, and then probably in March, we'll have to see how the weather goes, February, March, I'll dig up the climbing rose from the rose garden, and I'll bring it over here, and hopefully in the springtime, it'll start growing up the front of the potting shed. So all that will be quite fun and exciting, I think. So that's the big winter project, but as always, there's always things going on around here, whether it's cleaning things up, planting stuff out. There's some trees I want to get planted out this winter too, although I'm on the fence about that because they say it's supposed to be quite dry this winter. How dry? I don't know. And if a tree is dormant, does it need really any moisture at all? Question mark. If you're an expert out there, please leave your comments below. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. Hopefully the next video will be something a little more exciting, maybe a bigger project. I don't know. With all that being said, I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.